Florence Harding's journey from Marion, Ohio to the White House was marked by ambition, scandal, and a lot of heartbreak. But it was her swift and secretive actions following her husband's death that cemented her place in history as one of America's most mysterious first ladies. That story in a moment, but first, welcome to Heathstory, where we bring you profound, historic, and timeless tales of courage, mystery, and resilience. Twice a week, we explore the moments and figures that shaped history. Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now let's get into today's incredible story. Florence Harding stood by the grand windows of the White House in the spring of 1923, gazing out at the sprawling lawn. The sun was setting, casting very long shadows over the manicured gardens, and she could see the early evening lights of Washington, D.C. beginning to twinkle in the distance. It has certainly been a long journey from Marion, Ohio, to the seat of power, one marked by triumph, scandals, and deep personal sorrow. Her husband, Warren G. Harding, had risen to the presidency during a time of national exhaustion. After the horrors of World War I and the upheaval of the Progressive era, Americans were desperate for stability and a return to simpler times. Warren promised exactly that with his campaign slogan, "Return to Normalcy." His easygoing personality and commanding voice made him a natural for the role. People felt they could trust him to restore balance, and in the election of 1920, Warren won by an unprecedented landslide, capturing 60% of the popular vote and 37 of the 48 states. It was the largest margin of victory in a presidential election up to that point, reflecting the public's yearning for his calming leadership. Florence, known to her friends and close acquaintances as the Duchess, was not just a supportive wife, but a formidable force in her own right. She had managed Warren's campaign with an astute political mind, advising him on everything from speeches to strategy. Florence had a way of commanding attention and respect, and she certainly was not afraid to step into a room full of men to make her opinions known. On the night of the presidential election, they were in their hometown of Marion, a small city with a population of less than 30,000 people. Surrounded by friends, family, and supporters, the Hardings celebrated as the results rolled in. Warren had triumphed, and Florence felt a surge of pride. This was as much her victory as his. Yet beneath the surface of victory, Florence knew that her husband's rise to power had come with its own set of challenges. For the first year in the White House, Florence seemed on top of the world. She had helped her husband be elected president, and times were relatively good. Florence reveled in her new role as First Lady, entertaining guests at the White House and shaping policy discussions when she could. But the daily grind of governance found Florence more and more on the outside looking in. No longer was she the top confidant of her now powerful husband, a man who, frankly, without her guidance, may not have been up for such a big job. The euphoria of the election victory gradually gave way to the daily grind of governance. It wasn't long before whispers of scandal began to reach Florence's ears. Albert B. Fall, the Secretary of the Interior and a trusted member of Warren's administration, was at the center of a growing controversy. Fall, a former senator from New Mexico, had convinced Harding to transfer control of the naval oil reserves at Teapot Dome in Wyoming and Elk Hills in California from the Navy Department to the Department of the Interior. Then, once he had control, Fall secretly leased these oil reserves to private oil companies, Mammoth Oil and Pan American Petroleum, and he did it without competitive bidding. In return, Fall received bribes totaling $400,000, which is the equivalent to about $6 million today. He received that money in various forms, including cash, bonds, and livestock. The Teapot Dome scandal was just one of several corruption cases plaguing the Harding administration. Attorney General Harry Doherty was convicted in several scandals, including the improper handling of assets seized during Prohibition and accepting bribes. Then his close associate, Jess Smith, who worked in the Justice Department, was accused of running a slush fund and committed suicide under suspicious circumstances. Charles R. Forbes, the director of the Veterans Bureau, was convicted of defrauding the government and accepting bribes from contractors, bilking the government out of millions of dollars intended for the care of World War I veterans. Then there was Thomas W. Miller, the alien property custodian who was convicted of conspiring to defraud the government by accepting bribes in exchange for releasing assets seized from German nationals during World War I. The Harding administration was also known for its infamous poker parties. These gatherings, often held in the White House, were marked by heavy drinking and high-stakes gambling, even though the nation was in the midst of prohibition. Florence disapproved of these activities, but felt powerless to stop them, knowing they provided at least a temporary escape for Warren from the mounting pressures of his office. Florence could see the strain all of this had on Warren. His health began to deteriorate under the weight of the scandals, and the once cheerful and confident man she knew seemed to age overnight. Florence did her best to support him, but she could feel the walls of the White House closing in, the pressures of the presidency suffocating both of them. As if the political scandals weren't enough, Florence had to grapple with the personal betrayals that came to light. She had long suspected Warren's infidelities, but the affair with Carrie Fulton Phillips cut especially deep. The letters between Warren and Carrie were explicit and passionate, filled with the kind of longing and love that Florence had once believed was reserved for her alone. Then there was Nan Britton, a young woman from their hometown of Marion who claimed that Warren was the father of her child. These type of rumors were persistent, and they were very painful, casting a shadow over the Harding legacy. Florence felt betrayed, yet she stood by her husband, understanding that their private turmoil could not be allowed to undermine his public responsibilities. As talk of scandal began to emerge, Florence convinced her husband to go on the road to explain his policies. Warren had been so popular with the public, and Florence hoped she could rework some of that magic. But Warren's health was breaking. He couldn't sleep at night, and he struggled to catch his breath. All of a sudden, he began experiencing cramps, stomach aches, and other symptoms that pointed to the stress turning into a heart condition. This goodwill tour, which started with such high hopes that by the time they crossed the country to California, turned into a goodbye tour. In San Francisco, the president suddenly fell gravely ill. Doctors attempted to revive him, but strangely, their efforts had little effect. He died on August 2, 1923, with the First Lady by his side. Within an hour of his death, Florence made the swift decision to have his body embalmed, ensuring that no autopsy would ever take place. Her actions sparked immediate speculation. Why did she act so quickly? The decision fueled rumors that Florence had poisoned her husband in a fit of rage over his infidelities. Others believed she was determined to shield his legacy from further scandal. "They can't hurt him now," she was overheard saying after her husband's death. Florence later burned many of his private papers, erasing details of their life together and adding to the air of mystery. She claimed it was to protect Warren's legacy, but her secrecy only deepened public curiosity and suspicion. After returning to the White House, Florence refused to immediately leave, even as the new president, Calvin Coolidge, and his wife moved in. She would sit at the piano in the Grand East Room, playing a melancholy melody that echoed through the walls of the White House. Florence eventually returned to Marion with the body of her late husband, where she was treated very well. She considered many projects to undertake as the former First Lady, but as if her health was connected to her husband, she would die just 15 months later. She and her husband will spend eternity in their tomb in Marion, Ohio, while many Americans continue to ponder, did she do it?
If you like profound, historic, and timeless stories, check out Heathstory. New episodes twice weekly only on the Jim Heath channel. Subscribe and like now, and we'll see you next time.